Hi, everyone. I'm Shaheen from The Content Mix, and I'm excited to be here with Natalia Bochenska, Senior Strategic Marketing Manager at Somo Global, which is a digital product agency with offices across the UK, the US, and Colombia. You can check out somoglobal.com to learn more about the agency, and we'll also drop links to Natalia's social media in the show notes we publish along with this episode. So thanks so much for joining us, Natalia.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. So let's get started. Can you just tell us a bit more about your background and experience in marketing and how you kind of got to where you are today?
Sure. So I studied psychology and marketing and then sort of went on to do my master's in marketing as well. So I kind of knew what I wanted to do when I went to uni, but obviously the real world of marketing is quite different to what we learn at school. I kind of started in a slightly different field though. I started in a fashion brand. That's what I thought I would be doing in my studies as well. I did fashion marketing. So I started off as a marketing assistant for a fashion brand, but then very quickly sort of swapped to something very different than that. I was working at an innovation agency, doing market research for them. So a lot about sort of doing proof of markets, writing grant funding applications for brands, helping startups sort of, find their customer base and what they would be, how they could sort of tweak the innovations to make sure they sell. So that was quite a different field, but I really enjoyed sort of learning about new tech and learning about innovation, etc. And then from there, I moved into a marketing manager role for a startup that the co-founders of that agency have set up. So as a startup, there are pretty much no resources over there. So it wasn't just a marketing role. It was like things like software testing, designing, product management, and all the different things that are required to do. But, people normally have specific jobs for that. But, in a startup environment, you really have to do it all and learn as much as possible to succeed. So I learned quite a lot from that experience. And then from there, I moved to the agency world. Working as a content manager, from which I sort of progressed to a broader role here at Somo.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and you've been now like a couple of years at Somo, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's been 2 years, and it's been really great. It's quite an interesting role because it's not sort of specific to content, for example, as I did previously. It's about sort of content as well. It's a big part of that, but it's also about organizing events or, even organizing podcasts as well, doing all the different things that, are necessary to get the marketing going really.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Can you, tell us a bit about, for those who don't know, just like a bit more about what Somo Global does?
Sure. So we are a digital product agency. So we create sort of the digital experiences for brands. We create websites, apps, any sort of experiences that can help brands succeed in a new world, which is particularly important now during COVID, I think, where a lot of brands find that, the physical experiences is not enough. It's about sort of marrying up those two and making sure that digital really adds value. And that's where we step in, where we really sort of help brands succeed in that world.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then your role is you're working for the Somo Global brand itself. Can you tell us more about your responsibilities there? Yeah.
Sure. So I'm on an internal marketing team. So it's really around sort of running the marketing operations in general. We have quite a small team as well. Obviously, it sort of grew since I came on board, but still everyone is involved in a little bit of everything. So it's a lot about sort of, writing awards, for example, or running the blog, drafting our tone of voice, anything that needs to be done really. So it's a lot about content, events, and awards.
Cool. So like, how would you say like the marketing has changed like since you started your career?
I think it changed quite a lot actually. I think digital marketing grew massively over the years. Especially in the last year, actually, where, even at Somo, around 2 years ago, we based quite a lot of our marketing on sort of the physical bit. So we would send out physical white papers, for example, for people, or, organize a lot of in-person events or take part in massive sort of conferences with exhibition spaces. So all of that obviously ended, and we had to pivot to a digital world with virtual events and all that. So I think last year especially, it's accelerated massively. But even before that, I think, there was this, I remember when I started, there was still, obviously it depends on a company you work for, but in some of the companies, there was still such a big emphasis on like a sales pushy approach. And I think that sort of decreased over the years. Like people started seeing that doesn't really work anymore. Like people don't like to be sold to. So I think marketing became a little bit more subtle, a little bit more about sort of bringing value and, creating things that can help people and help brands rather than sort of pushing yourself into their lives, really.
Definitely. Yeah, I guess, I mean, your experience, has it been mainly in B2B or has it been a mix?
So I think it was mainly in B2B. The very first company I worked for, it was B2C. It was a luxury fashion brand, but we were just getting started back then. So it was a new brand that was just launching. So my main task over there was sort of approaching buyers and all that. So it was kind of a B2C, but still at a stage where it was more B2B than B2C, if that makes sense. So yeah, since then it was mostly B2B.
Mm-hmm. I see. Yeah, I was wondering if you have any specific advice for facing the challenges that come along with B2B marketing.
Yeah, I mean, I think the key challenge right now is sort of around visibility and being noticed. In the agency world, especially, like there's so many agencies out there, so many great brands that are doing really, really good work. So it's about sort of making sure that your brand stand out in a way. And in terms of marketing as well, when it comes to content, there's so much content out there too. So, just making sure that you create something that is worth doing, really.
Mm-hmm. Do you have like an example of a piece of content that's like worked really well for you?
Yeah, I think for Somo, Whitepapers worked really well. Like we spent a lot of time on really preparing for it, doing a very thorough research. Even when it comes to consumer research, for example, making sure that we are on, we have the latest stats, etc., and then the expert interviews as well with some industry leaders. So we really put a lot of effort into creating something that is good, and is really backed up by not just our opinions and our views, but really by the sort of the industry's view and where the industry is going. So I think the white papers worked extremely well for us. It also helped us to start new relationships as well. But we often sort of base our events around that. So yeah, it's a great big piece of content that creates a lot of opportunities for creating more marketing initiatives from.
Do you have like an example of like a recent topic of a white paper?
Yeah, so the most recent one we did was around digital priorities for 2021. So it's mostly around sort of the pillars of the new norm. So we talk about 5 things that leaders should focus on to succeed, and not just during COVID, but beyond that, when things go back to normal as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, very cool. And could you describe like Somo's tone of voice and how you developed it and like why it's important?
Sure. So I've actually worked on a tone of voice guideline last year, so it's still pretty fresh, I would say. It was a really fun project to be involved in as well. I think the tone of voice in general, it's about sort of being very transparent, being clear. Simplicity is a key, especially when in a tech world when it's not the easiest things to sometimes summarize the products or talk about the tech or all the challenges, etc. So talking in a very simple terms and in a friendly manner as well. I think those are the key things. Being a little bit witty, I think as well, and with short sentences, I think that's the key things that characterize it.
Mm-hmm. Obviously, like tone of voice is something that can be subjective. Like, do you have any tips on like how to document that properly? Like how to really explain to your team how they should be using the tone of voice?
Yeah, so the way we did it at Somo, we pretty much just put a document together, summarizing, why we're doing it, because everyone sort of needs to understand that it's important. A lot of people think it's a fluff, but it's not. Like it's a key thing that sort of drives how people see us, really how other brands see us. So conveying why it's important, what are the key things that we should look at, and how we sound as well, the key sort of words, for example, we should avoid, the key things, key personality traits, for example, that we can get described by, and then documenting it in a big document. Ours live on Frontify, so it's a page available for anyone in the business. It went through, of course, all the processes, all the reviews, etc., and then it's distributed throughout the whole agency, so everyone has access to it whenever they need to. They can sort of go to the page and very quickly read and see what's in there.
Yeah, that's important. That's always a challenge. Like when sometimes you spend a lot of time documenting something and then nobody references it. So having it like front and center, super cool. So I wanted to ask also, just like, what do you think some people get wrong when it comes to content marketing? What are the things to look out for?
Yeah, I think quantity over quality is a thing that I've seen the most. Like, people are so focused on producing as much as possible without sort of making sure that what they're doing is good enough. Even when it comes to sort of producing the number of articles or the number of blog posts, it's not really about sort of the quantity of it. It's about how good it is, how much impact can it make, and really how it can add something and help people that read it. So I think that's kind of the key thing, making it sound as interesting as possible. Doing the proper research and treating it as a story, I think, as well. A lot of people sort of just put their view or their opinion of something without sort of considering the broader picture. But yeah, it's about sort of making it sound like a story, having the beginning, middle, and end, and having a little bit of sort of personal reference or something emotional that can grab their attention, etc. I think this is the key that a lot of people sort of overlook very easily, thinking that they can produce something in an hour or so. And just do as much as possible, but I don't think that's the key.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's less can be more. If it's the content that serves like what your objectives are, right? So I wanted to ask about your advice. Just like, what advice would you give to someone starting out in marketing now?
I would say getting as much experience as possible at the beginning. I think one of the key things that I personally struggled with right after uni was getting my first job. Like, even though I was sort of a top student in a class, it still took me like 6 months to find my first position, which was pretty depressing after sending like hundreds and hundreds of CVs. So I think, being aware that, getting an internship, even if it's like a week of spending doing free work, for example, which shouldn't really be free, but getting internship somewhere for a week, or building that connection with people while you are still at university, I think that can make a major difference. So I think that's probably the most important one for me.
Getting that early experience, yeah. No replacement for that. And then, going back to your personal story a little bit, like, have you faced any setbacks in your career, and like, how did you overcome those?
Yeah, so I think that very first one was sort of getting that first job for me. It was quite tough, but I think from then, I think finding the right businesses as well, finding the right places to work for when it comes to culture, and when it comes to sort of how you are treated, the growth you can have, etc. So I think some of the businesses I work for probably weren't the places that I would choose to work for right now when it comes to sort of the culture and the work itself. So just I think it's key to work for places that build you up and build confidence, etc. And if you're not feeling that it's the place that sort of helps you do that, then it's time to move on, I would say.
Mm-hmm. So what do you think makes like a positive workplace culture?
So I think for me, the key thing is to feel empowered to make decisions, and understanding that people people are experts in what they do and hiring them as experts and being able to deliver the work that they were hired to do without going through hundreds and hundreds of approvals, for example. I think that's key. Having sort of the understanding that there's work and there's life outside of work, being empathetic and sort of not treating people as machines that come to work, become different people, and sort of sit down and just have to produce as much as possible. I think treating people as humans and empowering them to do the work they were hired to do.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel like you found the culture you were looking for in your current job?
I think I did. Like, honestly, this is pretty much the best place I have ever worked at. It, and I'm not just saying that because I'm currently employed by them, but it's actually the truth. We won a few awards for best places to work, and it's not just a word. Like they really have that. They really works really hard on sort of creating the culture that we can be really proud of, both as employees and sort of the management level. It's very, very flat. Everyone feels very empowered, feels that they can contribute ideas, etc. Which, it's really nice. It's a really nice place to work for.
And now that we're all a lot of people, I guess, are working from home, do you have any tips for staying sane and any daily habits that you follow personally?
Yeah, so I have a few things actually. So I always sort of start the week with a to-do list of things that I want to achieve that week, and then every morning I sort of relook that and sort of scope what I want to achieve in that day without overwhelming myself, I would say, because that never leads to. I think that only leads to more stress. So sort of setting achievable goals for the day, and that really helped me to be more productive. I think. Especially during sort of current environment of working from home, like taking a break during lunchtime instead of ending on time is key as well. Like it's so easy to burn out currently when the boundaries of work and personal life are becoming more and more blurred. Where you work from your living room or bedroom or whatever it is. It's quite difficult to sort of forget about work and switch off. But I think it's important because at the end of the day, it makes taking a break and taking a breather is going to make people more productive. And that's something I personally try to do. Always have 1 hour lunch break whenever allowed. Obviously, that's sometimes not possible with the workload, but trying to have 1 hour lunch and always finish on time or half an hour later, whatever. So that's the key things for me.
Mm-hmm. And do you think has the working from home had an impact on the aspect of culture? Like, how have you been in your workplace been able to maintain the kind of environment of the team environment?
Yeah, it's quite interesting actually, because we worked quite a lot from home previously, but obviously it was different because we still came in to the office when we had to, and then work from home whenever we had to. So it was quite in that respect. So the transition into the work from home environment wasn't as difficult, I would say. Like they at the very beginning, I remember the whole sort of team brainstormed on ideas how we can bring that office feeling back. So we introduced a few really cool initiatives, like a water cooler Zoom, for example, with a camera directed on our physical kitchen, where people could it was a Zoom, pretty much a Zoom channel where people could call in whenever they feel like taking a 5-minute break and sort of talk with other people about how their day is going, in a similar sort of environment as they would when going to the kitchen to grab coffee or water or whatever. So creating those little breather initiatives, I think this helped a lot. I think another key things was ensuring that people have the right environment to work within as well. Like we got quite a generous allowance to buy a desk or buy a chair or whatever we need, which helped too. So I think it's around sort of making sure that the culture can be as successful as in the physical office without actually having all the people and all the personalities around, but still maintaining that spark there.
Absolutely, totally agree. So I wanted to ask, do you have any professional role model or source of inspiration?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a single role model per se. I would say I often get inspired by how different brands do things and deliver things. So, for example, I'm a massive fan of Monzo, the UK bank startup. So the way they sort of talk to customers, the way they the transparency, the simple copywriting, and sort of it that sort of really inspires me on a professional level. Amazon is another great example with their relentless sort of focus on improving the customer experience and innovating and doing things better than the others. So I wouldn't say I have a single person when it comes to role model, but more about companies and work that other brands deliver can inspire me a lot.
Yeah, excellent. Those are great examples. And then I wanted to ask about any like recommendations you might have when it comes to like apps or tools or maybe resources for marketers, like podcasts or blog.
Sure. So one of the tools that really helped me was Clockwise. That's it's an app that's it's an app plugin for a calendar and for Slack as well that helps you to structure your day. So move the meetings so that they're sort of bulked together, have some focus time so you can actually sit down and deliver some work. So that's one tool that sort of that I'm personally enjoying a lot. When it comes to sort of other events and podcasts, the Marketing Meetup is an amazing resource. They do weekly events every Tuesday morning on various topics from like content, copywriting, emails, SEO, all the different sort of areas of marketing. And they make it super interesting and with really great speakers as well. So I recommend that one for sure. One of the newsletters that I'm personally really enjoying is Benedict Evans as well. He always sort of puts together a list of interesting things that are happening in the world, whether it's sort of from a tech world or key things that are happening, and the way he writes about it as well. It's very easily readable, and something that everyone will enjoy for sure.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Those are great recommendations. And then well, I was curious what you think are like the most important skills for marketers these days, and any tips for like keeping up to date on those skills.
Sure. I mean, I think copywriting is probably the most important one. It's such a crucial skill nowadays, pretty much necessary in every single area. Whether organizing event, you need to write, brilliant copy to make sure that people come into it. The way you talk about the product as well, that it pretty much shapes how people perceive the brand. So I think copywriting is one of the most important one. Other than that, like I'm a true believer in sort of being a T-shaped person. So learning as much as possible from different areas, so that you don't have to sort of depend on other people who might be busy or sort of not available to help on something. Being able to produce a piece of content, for example, design it by yourself, write it by yourself, sort of deliver it from end to end. I think that's key, and that will definitely make you stronger.
Yeah, so being kind of multi-talented, multifaceted, knowing a lot about, knowing a little about a lot of things, I guess. Yeah. Excellent. And well, do you have any tips on like, I mean, how to do that, like on any resources in terms of like continued learning?
Yeah, I mean, there's loads of free resources out there, like both free and paid. Actually, it sort of depends on your company, I guess, and whether they can pay for things. But personally, I learned everything by just using free tutorials. Learning Adobe software, for example, by just playing with it and sort of learning as I go. So I think there's loads and loads of free tutorials, whether it's YouTube or sort of just standard websites. I'm sure there's lots of free places over there to learn a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. That's my biggest teacher, YouTube, I think. So yeah, we're reaching the end of the interview. So I just wanted to ask if you have any like final takeaways or parting advice for our audience of other marketers in Europe.
Yeah, I mean, maybe referring to what I said a few minutes ago, sort of continuing to learn. I think that's a key thing. No matter how senior you are, there's still so much to learn. I would say that would be my parting advice: to just keep growing, be curious, and be brave.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point and a great note to end on. So for those who want to like learn more about you or what you do at Somo, can you tell us what's the best way to follow you?
Sure. So you can get in touch with me on LinkedIn. I'm also on Instagram if anyone's sort of into that. So yeah, LinkedIn, Instagram, and then if you want to learn a little bit more about Samo, then go to our website, samoglobal.com.
Okay, excellent. And yeah, we'll definitely put links to all that in the show notes and the blog posts that go along with this episode. So, well, thank you so much, Natalia, for sharing your insights with us today. It's been great having you on the show.
Thank you. It's been great.
Yeah. And thanks to everybody for listening in. For more perspectives on content marketing in Europe, check out veracontent.com/mix and keep tuning into the podcast for interviews with content experts. See you next time. Bye-bye.